Welcome back, everybody. Tonight, obviously, the State of the Union. And in the address, the president expected to share ways that he's going to attempt to strengthen not only the economy and point out that it's heading in the right track, but also, most specifically, help the country's struggling middle class. Expected to include calls for increasing taxes on the wealthy and expanding paid leave for workers and making community college free for many students.
Our job now is to make sure that every American feels that they're a part of our country's comeback. That's what I'll focus on in my State of the Union. How to build on our momentum with rising wages, growing incomes, and a stronger middle class. And I'll call on this new Congress to join me in putting aside the political games and finding areas where we agree so we can deliver for the American people.
Well, let's see what the folks on Capitol Hill have to say about this. And let's head back to Andrew Whitman, who's joining us live from D.C. Andrew?
And Rich, you know, it won't just be President Obama who's talking about helping the middle class tonight. Expect Iowa freshman Senator Joni Ernst in the Republican response to also talk about the middle class. Protecting and enhancing the status of the middle class has become the topic early in 2015, all as we prepare for the 2016 presidential election, which, as we all know, really gets underway later this year. Now, for some bipartisan views on the best ways to help the middle class and whether President Obama's expected proposals tonight will actually do so if some measure of them actually become law. I spoke to members of Congress from both sides of the aisle. Congresswoman Elizabeth Esty, who represents the 5th District, that's in northwestern Connecticut. And I also talked with Congressman Chris Gibson. He's a Republican who represents the Hudson Valley. Here's what they both had to say. I want to focus, one of the buzzwords that we're hearing at this State of the Union is middle class. It seems like both parties are making overtures to the middle class. The president's offering some specific solutions. Republicans say, hey, we've been there as well. We've been focusing on the middle class through better job creation and reducing regulations. Where do you think the middle class stands to benefit, and have both parties been equally productive in trying to aid the middle class?
Well, I think there's huge opportunity to do better. I invited the president of one of my local community colleges to be my guest tonight because community colleges, I think, offer tremendous opportunity for affordable, quality education to have the skill sets we need for the 21st century. That's an area where we can get bipartisan cooperation. Transportation and infrastructure are another really important area where we can help create jobs right now and have the avenue to jobs in the future by having roads and bridges, and not like the bridge that fell down today in Cincinnati. These should be bipartisan issues, and again, I'm looking for how we get to yes, not blaming why we're at no.
But I'm just curious, when Republicans say, boy, we've been focusing on the middle class too by trying to cut regulations that create jobs, do you give a lot of credence to that argument?
I give credence to what we get done. It's easy to give a lot of words and talk about your platform, but at the end of the day, are you passing legislation? Are you getting things done for people? I got 2 bills passed as a junior member, as a freshman. It is possible to do when we look for ways to get things done.
Congressman Gibson, a lot of focus tonight on the middle class and on policy prescriptions that will help the middle class. Yeah. From what you're hearing from Republican leadership and from the White House, are you hearing things that you think might actually benefit the middle class?
Well, I think so. First of all, you know, let's face the facts that we've had some good news lately, and you don't often hear that. You see gross domestic product, an indicator of the healthiness of the economy, 5%. That's big growth. Job creation, certainly we're not satisfied. We want to see more of this, but I would argue that the things that are helping are the things that are helping middle-class families, like lower energy costs. When you pay $2.30, $2.40 for a gallon of gasoline and you pay less for home heating, that means that's more in the pocket of my working class families and my small businesses. I'm proud of the work we've done on that. We've expanded supply that's helped on this, and we've passed some other bills here in the House of Representatives that will continue to help lower energy costs. We're also talking about tax reform.
Well, and I want to get into taxes right now because Democrats say if you lower middle class taxes and raise top end to pay for it, that helps eliminate some of the imbalance. A lot of Republicans say, boy, if you lower top-end taxes, that spurs jobs, that helps the middle class. It's like 2 diametrically opposite views of solving the same problem. What's your take? What do you think helps on tax reform for middle class?
We need to fix this broken code. It is complex, it's anti-growth. And, you know, look, if you're a small business owner, you can't afford a whole wing of corporate lawyers to go find these tax havens, these loopholes. So what we need to do is do what we did similar in the 1980s with a Republican president, President Reagan, and with a Democratic Congress. They went through the code, they eliminated loopholes and lowered rates. That's the kind of tax reform we need to do that's pro-growth, because middle-class families spend 96% of their take-home pay. And when they get a raise, or if they get lower energy costs, historically speaking, they spend 96% of that increase in their pocket. So this provides a private sector stimulus for growth. So, look, the president's going to say some things tonight. He certainly can have a voice in this process. We're going to have to negotiate, find our way forward. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to support a bill that closes loopholes and lowers rates, because I believe that's going to grow the economy. That's going to help my working class families. It's going to help my small businesses, just like the lower energy costs.
Congressman Gibson, not the only Republican I spoke with today who was receptive to the idea of some aspect of the middle class tax cut, depending on how it's paid for. Even Long Island Congressman Republican Peter King seemed to warm to the idea, again, if some of the details can be worked out. So, Rich, it's going to be very interesting in the days and weeks to come to see how Republicans position themselves on the middle class oriented proposals that are expected to come from President Obama tonight. Will they divide the Republican Party, and how will the Republican Party handle them as they gear up for the 2016 presidential election? That's it for now. Rich, we'll send it back to you, and we'll come back in just a little bit.
You got it, Andrew. Dominic, it's like motherhood and apple pie. You can't be against the middle class here, especially lawmakers who try to make themselves at least seem really authentic and everything else. Look at, for example, Chris Gibson, perfect example. Somebody who's made it clear this is going to be his last term. He's not running for re-election after these next 2 years, and potentially thinks of himself as maybe the Republican nominee, the next one for governor in New York. You can't be on record as saying, forget that. You can't do it. You can't ask the rich for another dollar, and you can't do it. So you got to be careful how you navigate these things, right?
You do have to be extremely careful, but you have to give the president and his team credit in terms of they are playing a high-stakes game of poker. And the one thing that we do know, no matter what happens, Obama is relevant. Now, he may be going into lame duck status.
A lot more than we thought a few months ago, right?
Richard, 6 months ago, I really thought 6 months ago that he might as well, of course a president wouldn't do that. Besides Nixon, and that was a different situation. But I really thought he should step down. That's how bad it was. It looked like he had lost all his fire, but he's back tonight. And I know that you point out that at the gas pump, it's not controlled directly by the president and so on. I understand that. But if it happens on your watch, and it's negative,
you're going to get the blame.
That's right. If you get the blame, you
right.
get the credit. And so, as a reminder to every American that the economy is doing somewhat better, just go to any gas station throughout the country.
And unemployment numbers are down.
Unemployment numbers.
Absolutely. But as you said, and we've seen before, wages have not kept up here with the rate of inflation. And for the middle class here, while things are better than they were in 2008, they're still not where they'd like them to be. Let's go to the phone lines right now, and let's see what Patrick's got to say. He's calling us from Brooklyn. Patrick, what would you want to hear from the president tonight in his State of the Union address?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. I would like to hear the president address some of the school issues we have regarding student loans. I would like to really, I would like to see if he could come up with a plan to better help out the middle class when it comes back to a deferment, getting a deferment to pay back these loans. Because me personally, I'm a college student, but due to the fact that I owe previous school from literally maybe 5 years ago, I still owe them money. I can't continue my education until that bill is completely paid off. So right now, I'm working in order just to get back into school.
Yep. And Patrick, we're going to hear about community college tonight. You heard the proposal the president said with some qualifications, basically trying to make community college free. Tomorrow's going to be the state of the state in New York, where the Governor Cuomo is going to be talking about trying to make some reforms to make tuition more affordable for state schools in New York. So what you're hitting on is not a subject that's lost on lawmakers.
And it's something that the president has talked about before. Yep. There's been a little action, but not as much as he would like to see done. That's the perfect example of perhaps one side in Washington saying all the right things, but the other political party being at this extreme, and the two parties not being able to meet in the middle.
Speaking of the middle, we're going to be getting a lot more of your calls related to the middle class or any other issue you want throughout this hour. And again, a programming reminder, 9 o'clock tonight here. we will have the State of the Union address, and we'll also have the rebuttal following it from Congresswoman Joni Ernst. She will be delivering the Republican response to that. We'll be joined on the desk here by our guests and, of course, by you as well. Andrew's in Washington with the reaction throughout the night. All right, our coverage just started. When we come back here, the president, he's obviously got an interesting dynamic that he hasn't had here for 6 years, where he's got both the Republican House and Senate. What kind of chances does anything have that he proposes of getting through? Where might there be some common ground? Stay with us. We'll be right back.